Maya adjusted the strap of her handbag and slipped quietly into the house. The familiar creak of the front door echoed in the dimly lit hallway. She paused, listening. The television murmured from the living room, a sports channel Ethan always left running even when he wasn't watching. Dropping her keys onto the entry table, Maya tiptoed toward the sound. Ethan sat slouched on the couch, his shirt wrinkled from the day, his dinner plate resting forgotten beside him. His eyes flickered toward her for a brief second before returning to the screen. "Hey," he muttered. "Hey," Maya echoed, her voice barely a whisper. She waited for something more, a smile, a question about her day, but it never came. She moved toward the kitchen, filling the silence with the clatter of dishes and the hum of the microwave. Their conversations had shriveled down to necessities, grocery lists, work schedules, occasional weekend plans they rarely followed through on. Marriage, she thought bitterly, was not supposed to feel like this. Not so muted. Not so lonely. Maya wasn't sure when the distance between them had begun. It wasn't a single fight or betrayal. It was the slow erosion of touch, the passing up of small, tender moments. A missed kiss at the door, a hand left hanging too long. It was the way Ethan fell asleep seconds after his head hit the pillow, leaving Maya awake, staring at the ceiling, a ghost trapped in her own bed. At work, Maya wore a bright smile like armor. She nodded through meetings, laughed at jokes that barely registered. That day, during a late afternoon briefing, she had caught Liam watching her. He wasn't like the others. There was no wedding ring tan line, no careless glances. He listened when she spoke, his gaze steady, attentive. It wasn't overt, no crude remarks or office gossip, but it simmered underneath, the possibility of being seen again. "You okay?" he had asked after the meeting, a slight smile playing on his lips. "I'm fine," she replied too quickly. But Liam didn't look away. He nodded, as if acknowledging a lie they both understood. Later, she found herself replaying that small interaction far more than she should have. She thought about the way Liam's voice softened when he spoke to her, how his fingers brushed hers when handing over a file, brief, but electric. The idea of him lingered longer than she intended. One evening, as rain splattered against the windows, Maya sat curled on the couch while Ethan worked late. Her phone buzzed. "Liam, rough day?" She hesitated, thumb hovering over the keyboard. She shouldn't. She knew better. Yet the emptiness around her pressed in, suffocating, and her loneliness needed a place to go. "Maya, you could say that." The response was instant. "Liam, talk to me. I'm here." Maya stared at the message. Simple. Uncomplicated. And yet it felt more intimate than anything Ethan had said to her in months. She told Liam small things first, how exhausting work had been, how she missed the rain back home. He listened, never interrupting, never offering hollow advice. The conversation deepened, branching into fears she hadn't voiced aloud even to herself. The feeling of invisibility, the aching hunger for connection, the dread that maybe, just maybe, this was all her life would ever be. "Liam, you deserve to be seen, Maya." The words undid her. That night, lying in bed next to Ethan's turned back, Maya traced invisible circles against the cool sheets. Her body was there, but her mind drifted elsewhere, chasing a feeling she wasn't sure she had a right to want. She told herself it was harmless. A friendship. Nothing more. And yet, deep down, she knew she had crossed an invisible line the moment she answered that first text. The next day at work, Liam passed her in the hallway. A brief smile flickered between them, fleeting, cautious. But it was enough. Something had shifted. Maya felt it deep in her bones, a crack in the foundation she had spent years pretending was solid. As she sat back at her desk, heart thudding louder than it should, Maya realized she was no longer waiting for Ethan to notice her absence. She was waiting for Liam to step into the void. The rain had returned, a steady, rhythmic tapping against the office windows. Maya glanced at the clock. 8:47 p.m. She should have gone home an hour ago. Ethan would be wondering where she was, or maybe he wouldn't. The thought hollowed her chest. Across the room, Liam sat at his desk, bathed in the cool glow of his laptop. Everyone else had long since gone home. The silence between them was heavy, dense, filled with the unsaid. Maya stood, her heart hammering against her ribs. "I should go," she said, her voice too loud in the empty office. Liam looked up. His eyes, dark and unreadable, met hers. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then he rose.
Slowly, purposefully.
Maya's fingers tightened around her bag strap. She should step back. She should say goodbye. She should leave. But she didn't. Liam crossed the space between them in 3 slow strides. He stopped just inches away, close enough that Maya could smell the faint trace of his cologne. Something warm, understated, devastating. "You don't have to," he said, voice low. It wasn't a demand. It wasn't even persuasion. It was an invitation. And Maya, aching and hollow and starved for something real, accepted it without a word. The first touch was almost accidental, a brush of his knuckles against her wrist. She gasped, more at the surge of feeling it unleashed than the contact itself. When he cupped her jaw, she leaned into it instinctively, desperate for warmth, for recognition. Their lips met, tentative at first, testing, questioning. But when Maya's hands found his shoulders, when she whispered his name like a prayer, the dam inside her broke. She kissed him back fiercely, hungrily, as though trying to erase every lonely night she had ever spent staring into darkness beside a man who no longer reached for her. Maya felt herself pinned gently against the wall, Liam's body solid against hers. Her breath came in ragged bursts as his mouth traced a line down the side of her neck, finding places that had been forgotten. A broken plea slipped from her lips unbidden. "Don't stop." He didn't. Maya clutched at him as if he were the last real thing in a world that had gone cold. Every touch, every kiss, every whispered name stripped away a layer of the life she had tried so hard to maintain. Somewhere in the back of her mind, Ethan's face flickered, his tired smile, his distracted affection. Guilt twisted in her stomach, a living thing. But Liam's hands, Liam's lips, Liam's body pressed against hers drowned out everything else. In that moment, Maya wasn't a wife, wasn't someone's disappointment, wasn't a fading photograph of a woman who used to laugh freely. She was alive. The world outside the office, outside this stolen moment, ceased to exist. There were only the two of them, tangled in desperate need, seeking solace where they shouldn't. Later, she would not remember who moved first, only that somehow they ended up on the worn leather couch in the corner, limbs tangled, breaths harsh against each other's skin. Maya wasn't sure how much time passed. Minutes, hours. It all blurred together in a haze of heat and whispered names. When it was over, they stayed there, bodies pressed close, hearts hammering in sync. But reality, cruel and relentless, began to seep back in. Maya pulled away first. She sat up, smoothing her skirt, her hands trembling. Liam watched her silently, his expression unreadable. He didn't try to touch her again. He didn't need to. They both knew what had been done could not be undone. Without looking at him, Maya gathered her things. The office suddenly felt colder, emptier. As she passed the window, she caught her reflection. Her lipstick was smeared, her hair wild, her eyes shining with something that looked disturbingly like sorrow. She barely recognized herself. Maya pressed a hand against the glass, the rain on the other side blurring her image further. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Not to Liam, not even to Ethan. Maybe to herself. She left without saying goodbye. Behind her, the lights of the office flickered once, then steadied. Outside, the rain washed the city clean, but no amount of rain would ever wash away what had happened between them. And deep inside, beneath the guilt and shame, something else stirred, a terrible, aching hunger that she feared had only just been awakened. The smell of coffee drifted through the air, warm and inviting. Maya sat at the kitchen table, hands wrapped tightly around her mug as if it could anchor her to the present. Across from her, Ethan moved around the stove, humming under his breath, scrambling eggs in a pan. The domesticity of it all made Maya's stomach churn. "Thought I'd make us breakfast," he said over his shoulder. You've been working so hard lately. Maya swallowed hard. She couldn't remember the last time Ethan had cooked for her. Thanks, she managed, her voice a strangled whisper. The clink of plates and the scrape of utensils against ceramic filled the silence that stretched between them. Ethan didn't seem to notice the way she flinched when he touched her shoulder lightly, a casual affection that once would have made her smile. Now it felt foreign. She pushed the eggs around her plate, appetite gone. Her mind replayed the night before in merciless detail, Liam's hands, the desperate heat of their bodies, the terrible, beautiful way he had made her feel alive again. The guilt was a living thing inside her, gnawing at the walls of her chest. And yet, layered beneath the shame, was something even more damning, longing. She hated herself for it. Ethan sat across from her, chattering about a new project at work, a vacation they should take, maybe somewhere warm. Maya nodded in all the right places, forcing smiles that didn't reach her eyes. Inside, she was crumbling. Later, she stood in front of the bathroom mirror, toothbrush limp in her hand. She studied her reflection, searching for traces of the woman she had been just days ago. She barely recognized what she saw. The shadowed eyes, the tightness around her mouth, the exhaustion that seemed stitched into her very skin. Was this what betrayal looked like? A soft knock came at the door. Ethan's voice followed, tender. You okay in there? Maya squeezed her eyes shut. Fine, she called back. The lie tasted bitter on her tongue. At work, she avoided Liam as much as possible. They passed each other in hallways and meeting rooms, their gazes carefully trained elsewhere. The tension between them was suffocating, an invisible cord stretching tighter with each near encounter. There were no more texts, no more late-night conversations, no more stolen moments. But it didn't matter. The damage had already been done. One afternoon, as she gathered her things to leave, she felt a presence behind her. She didn't have to turn around to know it was him. Maya, Liam said, his voice barely above a whisper. Her heart slammed against her ribs. She kept her back to him, pretending to shuffle papers into her bag. We can't, she said, her voice steady even as her hands shook. A long pause. Then, quietly, I know. The sadness in his tone nearly undid her. Maya left without looking back. That night, lying beside Ethan in the dark, she listened to his breathing, slow, even, trusting. He had no idea. The weight of her secret pressed down on her, suffocating. She wanted to reach out, to confess everything, to beg for forgiveness she didn't deserve. But she stayed silent. What good would it do? Telling the truth wouldn't erase what had happened. It wouldn't repair the cracks spiderwebbing through the foundation of their marriage. Some betrayals didn't shatter things in an instant. They eroded slowly, silently, from within. She turned onto her side, facing away from Ethan, tears slipping down her cheeks. I'm sorry, she whispered into the darkness. Whether she was apologizing to him, to herself, or to the woman she used to be, she didn't know. Morning would come. They would go on. Maya would laugh at Ethan's jokes, kiss him goodbye at the door, pretend the life they shared was enough. But deep inside, something had shifted irrevocably. She had crossed a line she couldn't uncross. She had tasted a different kind of life, a different kind of love, even if only for a moment. And no matter how fiercely she tried to cling to the life she had built, part of her would always ache for what she had found and lost in the arms of another man. In the silence of their bedroom, as Ethan slept unaware beside her, Maya realized a terrible truth. Sometimes the greatest punishments weren't the ones the world dealt out. They were the ones we carried alone, buried deep beneath the surface, smiling through the weight of them as if nothing had changed. And maybe, for Maya, nothing ever would.